You constantly question if you're providing the best care possible for your child and their future when you're a parent. The issue of what will happen if we parent poorly is one that never goes away. A youngster will always look to their parent as their role model and hero, since there is no handbook that tells them if they are performing their job correctly. This is the inspirational tale of Luca Winston. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. A father who aspired to succeed over all odds in order to save his lovely daughter the same struggles he had to endure. His life got off to a rocky start. He lived in a troubled family with his parents, who were often squabbling. Despite their lack of romantic history, the two became close when Luca's mother became pregnant with him. She had a solid financial condition at first, but soon all the issues mounted up, and Luca's father lost his work as a result of drinking issues and his negligence. This ultimately led to Luca's mother deciding to move out of the house. The situation was too much for her to handle. She abandoned her husband and children who couldn't withstand more than a few months in that house. They were taken out of the flat and left with only a few carry-along items shortly after. At the age of 11, Luca experienced all of this. As a young guy who had witnessed a great deal in his life, he harbored an odd belief that, should he ever become a parent, he would not resemble his own. Quite the opposite. He would do all in his power for his kids. That was a soothing thought for him. His father developed an addiction when they were evicted from their house, and most likely spent the remainder of his days living on the streets. Conversely, Luca sought for chances to live a decent life. He tried working at market booths, cleaning out the garbage, polishing shoes, selling newspapers, and scrounging for a plate of food and a few money every day. The locals were always willing to lend him a hand because they knew him well. They were aware that Luca was a wonderful youngster, but there were plenty of people who mistreated him, calling him names, making fun of him, or even hurling objects at him to make him despise his surroundings. That's how he lived till he was 14. He became adept at navigating the streets as they were his home. Then, he met someone with whom he had high hopes of getting assistance, but things did not work out that way. Luca was appreciative to everyone who had blessed him and done small favors for him. Inside the market, he met a kind guy who gave him a plate of food and occasionally allowed him to take a brief nap throughout the working day since he was aware of the boy's situation. Working all day to earn a few pennies, Luca scarcely slept at all. Joaquin's daughter Aria had a slight affection for Luca since the young man was kind and pleasant. Luca was given a minor task by Joaquin to take care of and tidy the premises during business hours as a gesture of goodwill. The youngster had a fantastic opportunity. It was the first time someone had given him such a significant trust. Luca put a lot of effort into his new career. He was just as dedicated a year later as he had been on the first day of work. Because of this, Mr. Joaquin saw his obligation and welcomed him into his house. It was a bold step, but he was confident everything would work out. When his daughter found out she would be living with her childhood crush, she was ecstatic. It resembled a dream realized. Mr. Joaquin was relieved that Aria and Luca got along as they became close friends. Luca began to feel to him like the son he had never had. After a few months of rather calm conditions, the young man's life will shortly alter due to an unforeseen event. For as long as she could remember, Aria had been concealing a horrible secret. She had become pregnant. Her father was enraged to hear this. His baby girl, his tiny daughter, was expecting a baby. He believed Luca was to blame right once, feeling that it was his responsibility for having a young man in the house. Joaquin kicked Luca out of the home because he was angry. Though Luca didn't entirely get what had transpired, he was concerned for his friend and acknowledged Mr. Joaquin's point of view. Luca went back to living on the streets and looking for employment, even though it wasn't right that he was treated that way and wasn't given the opportunity to defend himself. It was necessary for him. He worked as a porter for several months, sleeping wherever he could. One day, he was astonished to discover Aria waiting for him outside his job with a baby in her arms. Up until that point, he hadn't heard from either Aria or Mr. Joaquin. A lovely young child was dozing off in her mother's arms. Luca received few answers from Aria before she threw the infant into his arms and fled. For a few moments, Luca was in disbelief and had no idea what to do. He was left alone with the infant when Arya vanished from his view without warning. He had no clue what had just transpired. But something inside of him awoke as he gazed at the little girl. Arya, on the other hand, fled off in sobs, unable to comprehend what she had done. Despite his affection for her, her father had banished her from the house because she had disregarded him. After weeks of following Luca, she was at a loss for what to do with the child. Perhaps her father would want her back, she reasoned. This was the hardest predicament Luca had ever faced. He was having an affair with a girl. He could hardly afford to feed himself, much less take care of someone else. He was at a loss for what to do. He had to resign shortly after, since he was unable to attend work with the female. But as a decent guy, he had to make sure the infant was safe. He gave her the name Amelia because he thought it was appropriate for the stunning girl who had captured his heart. They roamed the streets together, Luca shielding her from the cold while starving himself so the girl could eat. Although the circumstances weren't perfect, Amelia's introduction into his life wasn't either. Because Luca had the child with him, no one was interested in hiring him. Not only was it complex, but his money would run out quickly. They even camped out on the bus station steps, sleeping there while pleading for cash to buy Amelia food. Though Luca hadn't gone through such adversity in a long time, he couldn't let Amelia to. He felt as though she was his daughter, even though she wasn't. One day, while strolling the streets, he observed that someone was seeking for a worker in a shoe store. Despite not knowing anything about the company, he felt driven within. To his astonishment, the business owner was a lady named Mrs. Peters. She required assistance since she was managing the company, but her eyesight was deteriorating. She could tell this young man was special as she saw him enter with the infant in his arms. She hired him without hesitation. She was also thrilled with the small child. She never married since it was considered improper for a woman to work at her position, and this was a rare chance. She imparted all the required knowledge about the firm to Luca. Gradually, the youngster gained knowledge and assumed control of the establishment. The woman invited him to remain with the infant child and have a place to sleep. Luca demonstrated responsibility, caution, and extreme dedication in all of his endeavors. The locals, who valued his excellent job, started to give the company a lot of credit. Mrs. Peters did not regret for a moment providing that young man with the opportunity because she knew he would succeed. The company she had founded was now owned by a young father who had a strong bond with his daughter and his profession. He was also quite talented and quickly came up with original ideas to increase the location's notoriety. In addition to introducing promotions and selling a variety of goods, he even took a chance by developing his own line of shoes, which proved to be quite popular with customers. Luca, who was already 23, had devoted the last 2 years to creating a successful company for his daughter's future. He loved Amelia as if she were his biological daughter, even if she wasn't. The kid, who was already 2 years old and a mischievous, adorable child who adored both her father and grandma, gained a grandmother in Mrs. Peters. Luca demonstrated that he was capable of creating a whole shoe business with his intelligence and sense of responsibility. His increased hiring capacity immediately led to a large demand for his designs among other individuals. He had to work really hard for many years to do this, but Amelia was his small source of inspiration. He believed she was his, that he loved her, and that he would never let her down the minute he had her in his arms. He would stop at nothing to keep her safe and make sure she didn't go through what he had. I appreciate you seeing. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.